Alright, so welcome back. We are pretty much to the last part of what we need to do here. So we have the lights in. It still doesn't look the way you want it to. It's not that majestic Pixar looking type of 3D palace that you want. The lights are a little bit overblown. Some other setups are kind of weird. And so right now what we're going to do is we've done all the work. We've done some of the tweakings. Now let's take it all the way home. We're on third base. We're looking to make it to home plate. So the first thing that we need to do is let's go ahead and bring up our light panel. And most of you won't have that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close mine. I'm going to show you where it's at. I'm going to do window, and then down fifth from the bottom, do lighting. So you're going to have a light panel here, and I prefer to keep this with the inspector, usually on the right. And the reason why I do that is just because I know where it's at, and I know how to get a hold of it. So the first thing that you want to do is turn off auto. If you remember our baking lights tutorial, that can cause all kinds of problems. I would much rather have control over my system and seeing how lighting is set up. One of the things that you also want to do is make sure that your scene lighting is turned on, and so you can do that by clicking on the little ray of sunshine up there. If it's, looks like it's pressed down, that's what you want. So in this case here, let's run down the lighting panel. Leave the default skybox because there's nothing else for you to really use. What you want to do is you want to choose a sun, and right now it's going to call for a light. And so unless you know how to find that, you can either come over here to the hierarchy panel, click, and drag that into that area, or you can come in here and click this, what they call the select ring. Click on the ring, and it'll give you a list of lights that you have, and you can come down there until you find sunlight. So I'm going to select that. We're going to keep pretty much everything here default. One of the things that I want to do is I'm probably going to go ahead and just turn off baked. I'm going to leave the CPU set to low, and I'm going to keep the directional on, but I'm going to turn up the bounce to probably about a 3. From there, I'm going to click on build, even though there's nothing really to bake, but it's going to bake the real time for us. So we're going to pre-configure it. That's actually what this is here, pre-computed real-time GI. So if we click on build, it's going to go ahead and pre-compose some of that for us. And the reason why we do that is because it's quite a bit faster and it's set up for that on there, or set up for us on there. So the first thing that I want to do is I usually like full control over my sun. So the first thing I like to do is I like to zero that sucker out. As you can see, it looks different, or it makes the sky look different according to how it rotates. So if you point almost like perfectly up, I think you get nighttime. What I'm going to do, since position doesn't matter, I'm going to move this out to where people can see it. So right now up is pretty much nighttime. You can't see anything around it, but for some reason it's still super bright, and that's mostly, I think, because of the lights that are in there. Yep, that's what it is. It's mostly because of the lights inside of there, but the sunlight does play kind of a role for that too. And so what I want to do is I'm looking for some interesting window shadows. So I'm going to choose a time of day that's going to get us the most interesting window shadows, kind of like where it just falls a little bit on that couch, and you can kind of see where that shadow there, it's a little bit around, maybe 3 p.m. The sun's just coming down to the eaves, and you can get these really nice looking lights and shadows. So we'll come down and pull it up like that. If you know how to animate inside of Unity, you can get some really cool animations, but depending on what your skill level is at, you can probably get some really nice ones just using 3D Studio Max or any other program really at this point, or Maya, or even Revit. I don't know if Revit allows you to do animations or not. That's something you guys should probably check out. So the next problem that we're having is, for some reason, everything is just super, super white, and I don't understand it just yet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to first I'm going to change that to white and see if anything happens, and hit apply. There it goes. So something's happening on the inside, but there's something wrong with the scene view here. I wonder if there's I'm going to clear the bake data. Didn't seem like that did that much. So I'm going to go ahead and build again. And that looks like it did fine, but it's just super crazy in the scene view. Okay, I think it has something to do with the the way the lights are set up to be important. Okay, so right now the only important light that you currently have is going to be the sun. And the reason why is because right now that takes care of everything. So what we want to do is I'm going to come over here to where it says rendering mode. Make sure you have the sun selected. Go over to inspector mode and go to render mode, and I'm going to set that to important. And what that's saying is computers do things in a specific order. They know to do item 1 first, item 2 second, item 3 third, and so forth. And by setting it to important is saying, hey, anything that's important, do this first and make sure it's your priority. And what we're going to do here, because right now when you see that those lights shift right here up at the top, it's all the lights, all 51 lights down here are fighting for priority over the other or over each other. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go and select every freaking light that we have and do a shift selection. And then I'm going to set render mode to not important. And so that should give us a more consistent experience. Actually, it isn't. So I'm going to do the opposite. It's, if you only have 2 options, if the first one doesn't work, select the other one. Yes! And so now as I move that around, that's going to give us a more consistent view. And that's what we really want. Now, it might cause some computer performance issues, so we'll have to kind of take that into account, because right now it's saying all 50 lights are the most important, and it's giving the same amount of rendering consideration to those lights. So again, I'm going to get to where I can see those a little bit better. And if this is too much for you, just click somewhere and that'll take care. And so you only see the one that you have selected right there. So what I'm going to do now, one of the biggest issues I have with how this scene is set up is the small cans and how they're fixed. I know we fixed that a little bit on the last one. I tried to come in here and pretend like I knew what I was doing. But unfortunately I didn't, so I came back and did some tweaks behind the scenes before I came back and recorded this one. So that's why I think looks slightly different from the past one to now. I probably should have said that to begin with. But anyways, leave the range at 10, and then I'm going to increase the spot angle quite a bit more, because those lights are big. They're made to shoot out pretty far. The only time you should really restrict your spot angle to where they don't cover a whole lot is when you need to, or is if there's something obstructing it and you don't want the shadow to the majority of the work. You just want to control that light. So I usually open up my spot angles pretty wide. Same thing here, since it is a nice summertime, looks like a 3 p.m. facing wherever the sun sets. I never remember. Jackie Chan and Shanghai Noon kind of screwed me up on that. But anyways, so I'm just going to warm those lights up a little bit more. And then once I'm ready and I'm happy with what I see here, I'm going to hit apply and make sure that works the way I want to on everything else. And it looks like it does. And you can see right now just making slight changes to those lights are going to make every bit of difference. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hit build. And I'm going to let it do a couple of things here. Actually, it looks like it did quite a bit pretty fast. Let me make sure this is set up properly. Indirect intensity, I'm going to change that to 8 because I wasn't too sure if it was doing its job or not. It's like it's acting kind of a bit weird. I was expecting a little bit more out of it. So I'm going to go back to the sunlight, making sure that's set up the way I expect it to be. Oh, I'm going to increase that bounce intensity of this light. And I'm going to knock that down. Well, actually, let's see what it looks like. I'm always up for an experiment. And nothing happened. The story of my life. Let's see what happens if I remove the bake data. Yeah. Actually, right now, it looks better with that being baked in. So what I'm going to do is build one more time. It's got to add that little haze there, but I should be able to. Yeah, that's better out of 1. And real time, skybox, auto, sun, skybox. Set that to low. Bait GI. We aren't really doing anything with bait GI, so I don't know why that's a thing. Bounce boost should be about 2. I don't know why I'm having so many problems with it currently. Bait real time, mix, color intensity. I can bump up the bounce and make sure that's doing what it's supposed to. Huh. I wonder if oh, that's what it was. I forgot to set everything to static. And that should make quite a bit of difference there as soon as everything gets over. So what you want to do is after you do that, you want to go ahead and bake it again. And there we go. You see this little blue bar, just like when we baked our scenes. So right now we're just baking real-time lights, which should make quite a bit of a difference. And there we are. So that's one way to make a scene look polished. The biggest problem was properly setting up the... what was the word I was thinking of? Properly setting up the bake portion. And what we forgot to do is we actually forgot to set these out to be static, and then we want to bump up the bounce boost. So if I were to actually go back to the sun and lower the bounce intensity, you'll see that there's going to be quite a bit of a difference there. And so what we want is we want it to be bright enough, but we don't want it to overshadow everything that's out there. So if we hit build again, it should look just a tad bit different, but not too much, or not all that much different. So that looks to me pretty good. It looks like one of those places that you see out in, I don't know actually where you would see something like this. It's kind of strange. Anyways, so just those small little changes will actually help you polish your scene. The next thing that we want to do is add in the almighty reflection box. So just like again, if you remember those tutorials, if we come back over here, right click on the hierarchy and hit light and then do a reflection probe. And as you can see, it automatically added some more realistic soft shadows into this thing. And we just want it to be that much more realistic. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine these because actually I'm going to lower it down here just because I don't need to see it that much. I'm more concerned right now about the actual scene. So the first thing I want to do on something like this is you always want to, again, just like what I said before, zero it out. And then you want to check your left. And then I'm going to raise it to what I think is the center of the height. And then check it here, and technically the zero it out should have taken care of that. And so just like what we did before, we're going to make the box just ever so much bigger than our actual scene. So again, I'm just going to move this out just a little bit, selected the wrong thing. And again, those handles are just way too small. Pull it out just a little bit, up a little bit more, and out just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. You're not going to see the immediate change, but as soon as we bake this probe, it's going to look quite a bit different. And so again, just like everything else that we do, we want to do real time. And so that's going to look kind of crazy. And it's actually going to me, I think it's going to make our scene look that much more amazing. Actually, it already looks pretty amazing after we kind of hit those few buttons. So anything that is metal is just going to have that much more of a sheen or that much more of an interest to it. So if we come back out here, I think this glass can use a little bit of work because it's really see-through. So if I select the glass, as you can see, it says it over here, glass. And I come over here and work with this glass shader. I personally feel that it might be a little too transparent, so I'm going to add a little bit more to it, and they're going to up the smoothness a little bit more and make it a tad bit more reflective. And so that might be too reflective, and also the map that we set up for the reflection probe isn't that strong. So we just want to add enough just to where we can get that sheen on it. And then what we want to do is I'm going to go through the materials and I'm going to find things that should be shiny and things that aren't going to be shiny and make those changes. One of the problems that we have here with that carried over from the FBX is that there's a lot of duplicates. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come over here and run through these materials. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to find references in scene. And the first thing you see here when it does that, it's just a material that carried over. Nothing in this scene that we currently have is using it. So I'm just going to delete that. Yes, I'm going to delete that. And then I'm just going to continue on. It can be kind of tedious, but what's going to happen is it's going to allow me to touch everything and examine it and make sure that, one, it belongs there, and two, whether it has the right property or not. So again, I'm just going to right click, find references in scene, and it looks like there is one, and I'm going to double click and take a look at that. And so that is a couch, and usually those are not all that shiny. So one, good, it's not metal, and then two, does it need to be that shiny? I don't think it does. So I'm going to knock down the shininess a little bit, and I'm going to call this seat fabric, because again, that name didn't really help us with anything. So I'm going to scroll back up. Looks like we have aluminum. I don't know what uses that. I'm going to find out. Looks like there's something called aluminum. So if I select or double click on that, we can see what scene that is, where it's at. Looks like it's down here, used only once, on the door handle. That's a good use. Anyways, so aluminum is metal, so I'm going to bump that up all the way, and then I'm going to make that pretty shiny. Aluminum is mostly shiny. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, so we just kind of want to mess around with it until we're happy. Beechwood, what is it? Giuliano? I'm bad at foreign words. Hey, to each their own. So I'm going to do find references in scene, make sure there's nothing that uses it, so I'm going to delete that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue on, and what I'm going to do is fast forward myself running through these. So find references in scene. Looks like there's a couple of them that uses it. That finishes out checking all of our textures. If we were to hit OK, we can kind of see now that even after we went through, checked our tiles, all the glass, all the scene setup looks pretty awesome if you ask me. So what we can do is we can start changing what the overall outdoor looks like. So my favorite thing to do is with the lighting is you can turn that, and actually I'm reversing the hours. So once we go back up, we're at nighttime, and you can see how this thing's going to be lit up at night. And it looks pretty cool if you ask me. So anyways, that's what it takes to polish your scene. Just kind of be careful, ask questions when you're ready, and just kind of be careful when you need them. The last thing I'll do, just so we can kind of see it happen, is let's go ahead and throw in, I think they call this guy Ethan. I'm not sure. Prefabs, third person controller. Hello, Ethan. So we brought him in here, and my favorite part is that we get to see him kind of run around. Oh, we lost him. He fell. And he can walk through everything, but this is what you're making. Welcome to the world of video games, guys. Congrats. Just email me or ask your professor any questions you have about this. We'll be ready to go.